Israeli Defense Forces tanks crossed the buffer zone and entered Syria December the 8th. This happened against the backdrop of the collapse of the regime of Syrian dictator Bashar al-Assad after the rebels captured Damascus. This was reported by the Times of Israel. The Israeli publication reported that, according to Syrian reports, Israeli tanks crossed the border with Syria from the Golan Heights. According to unconfirmed reports, Israeli troops allegedly entered the buffer zone in the Quneitra region and opened fire. The Israel Defense Forces have not yet commented on this information. Earlier on the night of December the 8th, the Times of Israel reported that IDF troops from the 210th Bashan Regional Division were carrying out engineering work on the fences on the Israeli-Syrian border in the Golan Heights. According to media reports, the IDF intends to announce increased restrictions for several towns near the border with Syria after the apparent fall of the Assad regime due to a campaign by rebels, some of whose groups are considered Islamist. Army radio reported that the restrictions mean that classes in schools will be cancelled in 4 Druze villages near the border. Israeli media noted that the lands adjacent to the border with Syria will be declared a closed military zone, meaning that civilians will not have access to them. It was also indicated that checkpoints are being set up around the Golan Heights and traffic in this area is restricted if necessary. Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, the Israeli military chief of staff, appeared to confirm that Israeli forces had gone beyond a demilitarized buffer zone in the Golan Heights, saying Israel had deployed troops into Syrian territory, although he did not elaborate further. Israel has been covertly operating in Syria for many years amid its current conflict with Hezbollah, the Iran-backed Lebanese militant group that had fought in Syria in support of Mr. al-Assad's now toppled government. More recently, the Israeli military has been more explicit about striking sites and people there, saying it was targeting Hezbollah's supply lines. But the deployment of ground troops beyond the demilitarized zone in Syria marks a significant shift in policy as the first overt entry of Israeli military forces into Syrian territory since the 1974 ceasefire agreement that officially ended the last war between Israel and Syria. The Israeli Air Force over the weekend was also striking targets in Syria to destroy government military assets that could fall into the hands of rebel forces and are considered strategic threats by Israel, the two officials said. These Syrian military assets had posed a risk to Israel previously, one that could now be exacerbated by extremist elements among the rebels who could seize control and use them against Israel, the officials said.
Syrians walked around the halls of the presidential palace Sunday after the fall of the government earlier in the day, bringing an end to the 50-year rule of the Assad family after a sudden rebel offensive sprinted across government-held territory and entered the capital in 10 days. Crowds gathered in Syria's Damascus on Sunday to celebrate the fall of Bashar Assad's government with chants, prayers and the occasional gunfire after opposition fighters entered the capital following a stunning advance. Rami Abdurrahman of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a Syrian opposition war monitor, said Assad took a flight from Damascus and left early Sunday. There was no immediate official statement from the Syrian government and Assad's whereabouts remain unknown. It was the first time opposition forces had reached Damascus since 2018 when Syrian troops recaptured areas on the outskirts of the capital following a years-long siege. The night before, opposition forces had taken the central city of Homs, Syria's third largest, as government forces abandoned it. The rapidly developing events have shaken the region. Lebanon said it was closing all its land border crossings with Syria except for one that links Beirut with Damascus. Jordan also closed a border crossing with Syria.
النصر لسوريا، سوريا باقية، الأسد إلى الحضيض، إلى مزابل التاريخ، ستبدأ سوريا صفحة جديدة، سيبدأ صفحة جديدة، سوريا الحديثة، بفضل الشباب وبهمة الشباب، النصر القادم هو النصر الاقتصادي بإذن الله. الآن النصر العسكري بفضل همة الشباب المجاهدين اللي روحوا من أعمارهم سنين لحتى انتظروا هاللحظة هي، كانوا عم يتدربوا وجهزوا وأعدوا القوة وإجوا وحرروا الشام وحرروا سوريا كلياتها من ظل هالطاغية المنحط. الحمد لله والله أكبر ولله الحمد. الله نصرنا على الطاغية بفضل الشباب.
الله أكبر والنصر لله عز وجل.